we're going down. Now, if that goes down, to keep raising interest rates, all those bonds will crash because, who wants a 5% bond when you can get a 10% bond? And the rumor is, this is according to Andy Schectman, a long shot is this: Japan may join the BRICS, Brazil, India. And what will happen is then, instead of a bailout, bailouts what happened with Lehman Brothers in 2008.
The storm is brewing. Robert Kiyosaki sounds the alarm bells. The world economy hangs by a fine thread. The question is, are you prepared for the crash?
Andy Schectman says this is called the 3 times crash. All paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, crash. Real estate's going to crash. And this is going to crash, the US dollar. So the BRICS nation are coming, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now Saudi Arabia coming after us. What's happening is that in 2017, the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, made gold Tier 1 asset. See, up until then, the US Treasury was Tier 1 assets. So the whole world is filled with US Treasuries and bonds. And as you and I have talked over the years, I don't like treasuries and bonds, and because they're fake. So what's going to happen is when they keep raising interest rates, those treasuries they're becoming worthless. Let's say you have a treasury at 5% or a bond at 5%, and the interest rates go to 10%. It's going to collapse the system. So like Japan, which has had quantitative easing for years and years and years and years now, is filled with US Treasuries. So is China. So is the Fed. And so what just started to happen, a few months, 2017 again, there was a reverse repo. And a reverse repo was what happened just before 2008 in America. And a reverse repo is very simply this.
Markets are volatile. Treasury yields are through the roof. Yet there is no better time to build than now. When economies crumble, the resilient thrive. For Kiyosaki, it's up to you to brace for impact. Arm yourself with the knowledge that will empower you to navigate the treacherous times ahead.
What happens is the Fed will give money to, let's say, a Tier 1 bank, like, let's say, Bank of America. The reverse repo is this. So if a Fed gives money to Bank of America, that's called a repo. So they're backing up Bank of America. A reverse repo is Bank of America and all the Tier 1 banks give it back to the Fed. They don't want the money. They don't want the bond.
The pages of history remind us that resilience can birth a new dawn. The past serves as a reminder. Forge your path through the storm and emerge stronger on the other side. It's not a matter of if, but when the bubble bursts. Robert Kiyosaki's warning isn't just a prediction, it's a call to arms. Brace yourself. The storm is closer than we think. Still, crisis is a catalyst for change. It's up to us to become architects of our financial destiny.
And it's not they don't want the bond. When they give the money, when the bank, let's say Bank of America, gives the money back to the Fed, that's saying we don't want to lend money anymore. Bank of America, when they give all those treasuries back or the bonds back to the Fed, people will run on Bank of America and can say, we want our money back. We want our savings back. And Bank of America says, our door is shut because there's a run on the bank. But guess what? Instead of your cash or your savings, we'll give you back stock in Bank of America. That's a bail-in. Now, I hope it doesn't happen, but that's what I was writing about. So as you know, I'm a huge gold, silver nut. And I would rather have silver right now, which is the biggest bargain in world history today. Real estate was my generation's investment because it was debt. For your generation, it's silver, because right today in America, it's cost me $30 to buy a silver eagle. $30. This stuff is trash. This is trash here. Cash is trash. So that's a bail-in, bail-out. That's what happens. You have a repo and a reverse repo. So the reverse repo is the banks are giving back the money to the Fed. We don't want it. I think it's here to stay for a while. And the reason is, it's not that they printed, trillions after COVID. But the real reason is what was the first act that communist Joe Biden did? His first act was he cut off the Keystone XL pipeline from Canada to America. And I sell oil. I used to be an oil tanker officer for Standard Oil. I don't touch paper assets. I don't touch stocks, bonds. I wouldn't buy an Exxon stock. I wouldn't buy Standard Oil stock or Chevron, whatever they call it now. I buy the physical oil. And my oil wells are in Dakota, North Dakota, Louisiana, and Texas. And so I was selling oil. Biden comes to office. My friend Donald Trump, Trump and I have written 2 books together. He's a good friend of mine. And what happened is when Biden took office, his first act was to cut off the Keystone XL pipeline, again, running from Alberta to America. I was selling oil down that day for $30 a barrel on the spot exchange, as you know. That day went to $130 a barrel. When that happened, I knew what Biden was up to, or the are up to. They're crushing the poor and middle class. So this is the irony of it, David. Guys like me get richer. So, you sell oil from $30, also getting $130. I almost voted for Biden after that one. I said, thank you, Joe. But then I realized what he's doing. He's going to crush the poor and middle class, and that sets us up for revolution, David. Well, job stands for just over broke. Because of taxes. Who pays the highest taxes? Cash flow quadrant, employees around the world, David. Employees pay 40% in tax around the world. The second are self-employed or small business entrepreneurs or doctors and lawyers, self-employed. They pay 60%. Big business guys like me pay 20%, and hardcore inside investors like me pay 0%. We don't pay taxes. That's why when Trump was running for office against Hillary, and Hillary said to him, well, we don't pay taxes, and Trump says, because I'm smart. The reason I don't pay taxes is simply because, there's 3 types of income: earned, portfolio, passive. Passive income is 0%. Portfolio is 20%. That's when you flip stocks, you flip real estate. And earned is when you work for money, like a doctor, a lawyer, or an employee. That's 40%. So it's just common sense. You just check the tax rates. I wrote that in Cash Flow Quadrant, my second book. I first started investing in silver in 1964 when I was in high school. And, I saw that dime had a copper tinge to it. I said, ¿Qué pasa? What are they doing? Well, that's called, what's that, fake money? And what they had done in 64, they took the silver out of the silver coins. That's what Gresham's law kicks in, right? It says, when fake or bad money comes into the system, good money goes into hiding. Well, I'm like 15 or 16 years old in 64, and I go, what are they doing? And so I started taking my dollars to buy packets of dimes. I'd go through them, take out all the copper ones, turn the copper ones back into the bank, and keep the silver ones. So by the time I left for college, I had a bag full of real silver coins. I didn't know why, but that's Gresham's law. What is going on in the world right now has never happened in the history of the world. I mean, I knew our leaders were screwed up, but not this screwed up. So the crash is bigger than I thought. So in March of 2020 was the biggest crash in world history of the stock market, but nobody knows anything about it because everybody's quarantined at home thinking about coronavirus and social distancing and wearing face masks. So people are missing out on one of the biggest catastrophic cash heists in the history of the world. They don't even know what's happening. Now, the good news is I'm going to make a fortune. This is the best time if you're ready for it. So I want you guys who are sitting at home, licking your wounds and wondering when you're going to go back to work and so you can get your lattes and cappuccinos and pizzas. Just know you might be missing one of the biggest opportunities in the history of the world because our governments have really screwed up. I won't talk about conspiracy, but something's fishy about this corona crisis. Why did they have to shut down the whole damn world? And I think it's because they're covering up something very, very big. I mean, how can you shut down the whole world economy? And it's the reason that's really good news is because both the Fed and the Treasury, they're supposed to be separate, but they're now scratching each other's back, which proves they were never separate at all. And most people, that doesn't make any sense to them.
And that's why this is probably the most important program, but it's not. See, most people just watch the stock market. That's all they watch. They don't know much about what the home prices in their neighborhood. And that's not good enough. What does the future hold? Right now, when you look at the future, the baby boomers are old guys. They're the first generation, I think, to have a 401k, because we came off what's called defined benefit pension plan and went to a defined contribution, which is the 401k or IRA or SEPs. So the baby boomers, for the first generation, to be hanging with their butt out in the air right now. And if the market crashes, they're gone. Whereas my parents' generation, the World War II generation, they had a defined benefit pension plan. That's like what Ford still gives out, I think. So if the market crashed, Ford still made sure you got a paycheck for life. So the baby boomers, you're screwed. Listen to this program now. And if you're the kid or child or grandkid of a baby boomer, you better listen up too, because you don't want grandpa and grandma moving in with you when they get wiped out in this next crash. But if you're feeling bad, this is your program. If you're worried about what's going to happen to moi, this is your program. So we're here to save your soul and your checkbook.
I never trusted U.S. money. In 1964, I was 17 years old. I held up a U.S. quarter. It had copper tinge around it. I said, "Que pasa? Why is a silver coin copper?" Then I looked at the dime, it was copper. Looked at a $50, it was copper. So 1964 was the year the U.S. started screwing the world by pumping out fake money. In 1964, the United States of America, God bless America, and I fought for America twice, U.S. Marine, the U.S. dollar became fake. It was called Gresham's Law. And when you violate Gresham's Law, what Gresham's Law says, when fake money enters a system, real money goes into hiding.